Hey everybody, I am back today with a card making video for Wild Whisper. I am going to be using this beautiful purple paper from the Ledger and Script paper pack. It's just going to be my background. The real star of today's show is that floral stamp set. I don't know why this stamp set is still in the shop. It really should have been sold out already because it is absolutely fabulous and I love it. I'm going to start by stamping every image on this stamp set with some Brutus Monroe Detail Black Ink in Raven. And I am stamping all of my images on some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I recently purchased myself a set of Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I got a really amazing deal on Amazon, and you know what? I'm gonna link it up down below in case you have been looking for a really good deal on these markers as well, because they tend to be a little bit pricey. One of my favorite YouTubers is Nicole Spohr here on YouTube. She's a card maker, but she has great tips and tricks, and she's really fun to listen to. So she always says when she uses her Zig markers that she uses them with a Bristol Smooth cardstock. So that's what I did. I went right with the Pro, and I got some of the Bristol Smooth cardstock before it actually arrived, before my markers did. And I have been really enjoying the process of coloring with these markers. Very similar to using a watercolor brush. If you've ever done a, maybe you've heat embossed and then watercolored stamped image, or foiled an image and then watercolored it. These markers act in much the same way. So it does take a little bit of practice, but because I do a lot of no-line watercoloring, I felt like I kind of went ahead and got the hang of it pretty quickly, and I have been absolutely loving them. Instead of blending these stamped images, I really love to play with them and color them almost like stained glass, which means each section gets its own color. And as opposed to blending them and having light or dark, you kind of have more saturated color. I have colored these images and played with these floral rose images many times. This is one of my most used stamp sets, and so I knew going right in how I wanted to color them. You could color them in any way. You could stamp them in some antique linen and then no line color them. You could color them the way that I'm coloring them, bright and bold. You could do way much lighter colors and do some more shading than I did. But I think these turned out really beautiful, and I really like them in these vibrant purple colors. I chose my colors, and the way that I chose to color them were based upon that really deep purple paper from the Ledger and Script paper pad or paper pack, which is actually also, so all of the Wild Whisper products that I'm using today are available in the shop, and I will link them below. The stamp set, the Ledger and Script paper, and then once I have all of these roses colored, I'm going to go ahead and do some embossing on the front of my card for the sentiment. You can see here how I'm working my way around my flower and moving my paper. The reason that I color this way is because I'm left-handed, and these markers will stay wet for just long enough that you can smudge them when you're left-handed and trying to color with your left hand. So I forever turn my paper while I am coloring, and I will try not to show you all of this simply because I don't want you to get dizzy. Once I'm all finished coloring my flowers, I'm going to set them aside. I want these to dry. These are water-based markers. They're not alcohol markers. And honestly, I I have alcohol markers too, and I just really love these. I've always been someone that was drawn to the like the no line watercoloring. I've watercolored a lot of my stamped images quite often, and I really, really like this. This is a lot cleaner than getting out my watercolors and my spritzer bottle and things like that. They blend I really, really have been enjoying coloring my stamp sets with these markers. So while my colored flowers are drying and all that ink is soaking into the paper, I'm going to go ahead and prep my card base, but not the card base, the card front, with some powder tool, and then I am going to use the brush script stamp set. I'm going to stamp thanks in embossing ink across the middle-ish of my layout of my card front, and then I'm going to hit it with my with some embossing powder and emboss it in white. I say ish because I was totally doing this blind. I kept having to like bend down and make sure I was getting the stamps overlapping correctly and all that. So at the end of the day, when I hit it with the heat tool, it's a little off center, but that's okay. We're going to go with it anyway. Now that I've given those flowers a little bit of time to dry, I am going to come in with my favorite white pen, which is the Arteza pens, white gel pens. I love them. I've had the best success with these, more success than I've had with any white gel pens. So what you need to know when you're putting a gel pen over these markers is that Zig markers are water-based, which means no matter how hard you try, the gel ink is going to react to the color underneath. And while I'm getting these pretty highlights, they are also taking on some of the color underneath. So they're not a bright, in-your-face white. That being said, that doesn't mean doing this is a useless endeavor, because it really does add those highlights. They're just a little more subtle than if you're putting this white gel pen on top of something that isn't water-based. These stamp sets don't have coordinating dies, so I did fussy cut all of those flowers. And now I can just put my card together. So I'm going to lay out my card front, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of layer up all of these flowers to create a diagonal design across my page, or across my card front. I'm going to use a little bit of foam tape, keep it pretty simple. And yeah, this is going to come together really quick. I love how this card turned out. It's so cute. I can't wait for someone to do something nice for me so I can send it to them, because it's just darling. And I just, whoever gets it is going to love it. I just know it. I'm going to go ahead and put the two biggest clusters of flowers, one in the top left hand and one in the bottom right. And I put the largest one in the top left hand corner because then it looks like I stamped my sentiment off center on purpose. There's a little trick of the trade for you. I'm also going to pop some of these clusters up for some depth and dimension. And then I also have some of these flowers hanging over, and for most of the flowers, I don't have it hanging over enough that it matters. But that big one at the top, when I trim that one off, I'm gonna use the offcuts and put it on the bottom just to bulk up that bottom bit a little bit. There are these little tiny sprigs and bud flowers that I did stamp and cut, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and put those in to kind of bridge the gap between the two larger sets of flowers. So I used I stamped every stamp in the stamp set, and I'm using every stamp in the stamp set on this card. So that lets you know exactly how many stamps you're getting with this stamp set. You're getting enough that you can just stamp it once, and you have all, if you stamp every one of the images one time, you have a set of beautiful floral stamps. And it will do one card. You'd probably have to do it 2 or 3 times for a scrapbook layout, or you could actually even just stamp it direct onto your 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. And there we are, all done. Thank you so much for joining me today while I indulge in a little bit of card making and coloring. Look at that purple. It's so gorgeous. If you haven't grabbed this stamp set, I highly recommend it. You can head right over to the Wild Whisper shop, and I have a code that you can use to place your order as well. Talk to you soon. Bye.